So what kinds of actions are citizens supposed to take? Well, clearly they're supposed to understand these ideas of civic virtue. They're supposed to participate in politics. They're supposed to put the good of the republic ahead of any selfish interests they may have. Now, one of the most remarkable examples of civic virtue in action also deals with George Washington, and it's the story of the Newburgh conspiracy, which is really one of the most remarkable moments in the Revolutionary era. One of the biggest problems that America has, of course, is paying for its new army and paying for a war in which it's fighting the most powerful nation on earth, Great Britain. And everyone recognizes that the states are not doing enough to help Washington and his army, that collecting taxes and providing funds for the army is always much slower than it should be. And the Continental Army Officers Corps, which is camped outside New York in Newburgh, there's unrest that's brewing. They're dissatisfied with this weak government, which isn't functioning effectively. These are some of the best and the brightest, most talented, and some of the wealthiest people in America. They're beginning to think, why don't we just take over because we can do it better? And of course, this is the classic temptation, going back to ancient sources, that even people who are generally good will sometimes be tempted to think, let's forget about the law. Let's just bypass all the procedures and let's just get to where we want, because the end will justify the means. One of the most fundamental philosophical questions that anyone or any society poses. How do you balance the ends and the means? So there is serious talk that the officers will rebel. There'll be a coup. They will seize control. We see this happen all over the world, where military leaders subvert civilian governments, establish dictatorships. Caesarism. I mean, it's one of the oldest models in Western political thought, and in the modern world, not uniquely Western by any stretch. Washington learns of this and is deeply troubled. So he rides up to Newburgh, New York, and he has a letter from Congress saying that they're going to do their very best to do better and to meet the needs of the Army and to pay the Officers Corps eventually, provide them with the pensions they've been promised. He addresses the Officers Corps in this makeshift tent they've created, which they themselves have dubbed the Temple of Virtue. And Washington gets up before the Continental Army Officers Corps, and he's going to read a letter, and he has some prefatory remarks he's going to make. And he pauses, and he reaches into his pocket for his glasses, and he says to the assembled crowd, "Gentlemen, you'll have to excuse me. I have grown gray in the service of my country. I fear perhaps I'm going blind too." And then he delivers this appeal of camaraderie, of having suffered together and bled together and fought together and sacrificed together, and how now is not the time to abandon that type of virtuous legacy that they've created and that bond that they've created together. People are weeping. The Officers Corps, we have testimonials and memoirs where people say they literally were brought to tears, and there were many, as one says, many an eye was glistened with a tear listening to the Commander-in-Chief, Washington, address them. So if you think about that, it is still just quite remarkable that Washington, by virtue of his charisma, by virtue of the fact that he is perceived really to be the selfless leader, the modern Cincinnatus, the man who has, who led a comfortable life as a very wealthy Virginian planter, but who puts it aside to do what must be done for Virginia and for the United States. The fact that he has come before his officers and who have a close connection with him and pleaded with them to do the right thing and invoke his own suffering, growing gray, his eyesight is no longer good. He reduces them to tears, and he essentially crushes the rebellion by reaching into his pocket for his glasses, which is a gravitas, I think, that we have not seen in American politics in a very long time. Perhaps we'll never see it again. Fortunately, we saw it then, and it put us on this road to republicanism when we might have ended up with a military junto seizing power. And again, it only makes sense in this society where everyone understands this concept of civic virtue.